Both landlords and tenants in Vermont can benefit from understanding the state's rental laws. There is no more cost-effective way to avoid landlord-tenant disputes or to minimize the time and money needed to deal with difficulties that do arise. We're eForms, the world's largest online database of fillable legal forms. This video focuses on Vermont's rental laws, including rules for specific types of leases, things to look out for with security deposits, and what the law has to say about evictions. Before we dive into Vermont's laws, it's important to keep in mind that the answers to most questions that will come up in a tenancy are not found in the laws. They're found in the lease agreement between the landlord and the tenant. The laws help determine what lease agreements can and cannot contain, and may fill in the blanks when a lease agreement leaves something unclear. But having a written lease agreement enables landlords and tenants to decide on rules they agree best fit the property. Looking for a lease agreement that takes all of these legal requirements while taking into account the details of your property? Click the link at the end of this video to get started. There are several different kinds of leases available in Vermont, but for residential property, the most common is a standard lease. This is used at the beginning of a tenancy and involves a landlord leasing a property to a tenant or tenants for a year. Once the year is complete, standard leases typically convert into month-to-month leases, which can be ended by either party for any reason by providing sufficient notice. Vermont has some of the most extensive notice requirements of any state. While many states allow a month-to-month tenancy to be ended with 30 days notice, Vermont requires tenants who have been at a property for more than a year at least 60 days, and tenants who have been at a property for more than 2 years at least 90 days. For security deposits, there are important differences between state and local law to keep in mind. There is no statewide maximum on security deposits in Vermont, but several cities, including Burlington, the state's largest, limit a security deposit to no more than 1 month's rent. Vermont does set rules for the return of security deposits. In general, security deposits must be returned to the tenant within 14 days of the end of the tenancy. Landlords are allowed to deduct some or all of the deposit in order to account for need of repairs, but any deductions must be explained in a written document that must also be provided to the tenant within 14 days of the end of a tenancy. When it comes to late rent fees, there are no rules in state statutes. However, Vermont courts have said that penalties for late rent are not permitted. What's the difference between a fee and a penalty? In general, a late rent fee is more likely to be enforceable when it is specifically stated in the lease agreement and reasonably related to the cost imposed on the landlord by the rent arriving late. Vermont's rental laws also determine how evictions work. As in other states, landlords can pursue evictions when the tenant violates a provision in the lease agreement. To get the process started, landlords have to provide notice to the tenant, often called a notice to quit. This lets the tenant know that they have a certain amount of time to address the problem or move out of the unit. If the issue is a failure to pay rent or other similar violation, tenants receive a 14-day notice to quit. But if the issue has to do with illegal activity, tenants are simply given a notice instructing them that the lease will be ended in 14 days, and there is no opportunity to correct the problem. To find out more about Vermont's rental laws, check the link in this video's description, or you can find more videos about legal issues in everyday life by clicking the subscribe button.